Have you ever looked at someone who's honest, hardworking, and humble, and wondered why they're always the ones struggling to get by? You know the type. They don't complain. They show up early, stay late, do everything by the book. They treat others with respect, take responsibility for their mistakes, and never ask for special treatment. And yet, they never seem to get ahead. Year after year, their lives stay the same. Quiet, respectable, and invisible. No recognition, no promotion, no breakthrough. Meanwhile, you watch others. People who cut corners, shift blame, play politics, and charm their way up the ladder. Not only succeed, but thrive. They build influence, accumulate wealth, and gain the admiration of those they secretly despise. It's as if the world is running on a silent rulebook, one that punishes virtue and rewards performance, no matter how fake. It's a bitter truth we all sense but rarely speak. In the real world, honesty is not a currency. It's a liability. We've been taught since childhood that doing the right thing leads to good outcomes. That truth, hard work, and humility are paths to success. But what if that story, comforting as it sounds, is a dangerous illusion? What if honesty, stripped of power, is not a virtue but a trap? Because here's what they don't tell you. Being honest doesn't make you safe. It makes you predictable. And in systems built on control, predictability is exploited. If you refuse to lie, you become easy to read and easier to manipulate. If you always take the high road, others will use your integrity as a weapon against you. They'll give you the responsibility but never the credit. They'll lean on your conscience while they climb on your back. And when you break, you'll break alone. Ask yourself this: why do we associate honesty with struggle? Why do we praise the honest worker while promoting the cunning operator? The answer isn't just economic, it's structural. In environments where power defines outcomes, morality without power becomes servitude. You don't rise by being good, you rise by being effective. And unless your goodness comes with strategy, unless your honesty comes with force, the world will not bend for you, it will bury you. History is full of forgotten names, men and women of immense character, unshakable principles, and uncompromising standards, who died broke, alone, and unrecognized. They were honest, but they were not armed. And in a world built on competition, they were devoured by those who understood one brutal truth. Integrity without leverage is an invitation to be used. So let me ask you something, not as a philosopher, not as a motivational speaker, but as a fellow traveler in this broken game we call society. What if being honest without power is actually a dangerous combination? What if the people we admire for their purity, the teachers, the helpers, the silent backbones of institutions, are not just being overlooked, but systematically sacrificed? This video isn't about becoming dishonest. It's about seeing the game clearly. It's about asking, can you be honest and still win? Can you keep your soul and still survive the war for success? And to answer that, we have to go deeper, into psychology, into philosophy, and into the brutal honesty of one of history's most misunderstood thinkers, Arthur Schopenhauer. But here's the part no one wants to admit, even though deep down we all know it. In this system, honesty isn't rewarded. It's exploited. It's not just that being honest doesn't guarantee success. It's that honesty without power turns you into a tool, reliable, consistent, easy to control. If you don't know how to lie, how to bend perception, how to protect yourself in the political undercurrents of modern life, you don't get respected, you get managed. Because here's how the real game works. Morality is useful as long as someone else has it. Your sense of duty becomes their convenience. Your refusal to play dirty becomes their opportunity to win without consequence. If you always tell the truth, others don't need to. They just need to stay quiet long enough for you to take the fall. If you don't know how to push back, how to maneuver, how to defend your values with strategy, you'll be cornered. cornered by those who use your conscience as leverage. This isn't just a hunch, it's been studied. A 2018 study from Duke University found that people with higher moral standards are more likely to be placed in low-power roles within groups. Why? Because we subconsciously associate moral people with servitude, not leadership. In other words, if you're honest, you're expected to obey, to absorb the blame, to keep the machine running quietly, not to question it, not to lead it, and the consequences of this are devastating. Let me tell you a true story, one you've probably never heard, and that's exactly the point. John Boyd, one of the most brilliant minds the U.S. military ever produced. A fighter pilot, a war strategist, and the man whose thinking transformed modern air combat. He wasn't just good, he was revolutionary, and he was honest. Fiercely, unapologetically honest. He didn't play politics, he didn't kiss the ring, he refused to trade truth for favor. And because of that, he was isolated, sabotaged, buried. Inside the Pentagon, where power is a game of perception, Boyd refused to participate. He wouldn't flatter the higher-ups. He wouldn't bend his work to please egos. And so, despite reshaping the very doctrines of aerial warfare, he was denied recognition, sidelined, and left to die broke and forgotten. No medals, no statues, no legacy, except among a handful of warriors who knew what he really stood for. He didn't get remembered, he got replaced. And this is the fate of so many like him. People of immense skill, vision, and principle who lacked the political armor to protect themselves, because the system doesn't just forget the honest, it quietly removes them. So when we tell young people to just be good, to work hard and tell the truth, we're not preparing them for life. We're preparing them for sacrifice. We're sending them into battle, unarmed. If you don't learn to protect your integrity with force, with strategy, then someone else will turn it into a leash, and they'll smile while they do it. Because the truth is, honesty without power isn't noble, it's vulnerable. And in a world where perception drives results, it's not just what you do that matters. It's how you protect the space to keep doing it. Coming up, we'll explore what one of the darkest philosophers in history had to say about this. Arthur Schopenhauer, a man who didn't believe the world was fair and wasn't afraid to say it. And this is where we meet one of the most brutally honest minds in philosophy, Arthur Schopenhauer. A man who didn't sugarcoat the world, who didn't dress suffering up with noble ideals or hopeful slogans. He looked reality dead in the face and said, "This is what it is, now decide what you'll do about it." Schopenhauer believed that life isn't built around fairness or virtue, but around a dark, relentless force he called the will to life. Not will as in intention, but will as in instinct, raw, blind, and brutal. At the core of everything, from animals to empires, is the drive to survive, to dominate, to keep existing at any cost. That's the engine of the world. And the ones who thrive aren't the kind, or the generous, or the honest. They're the ones who serve that will best. Faster, stronger, more ruthless. In Schopenhauer's world, virtue isn't rewarded. It's endangered. Goodness doesn't win battles. It walks into them unarmed. The more intelligent you are, the more clearly you see how merciless the game truly is. And the more sensitive you are, the more deeply it hurts. As he once said, the more intelligent, the more sensitive. The more sensitive, the more alone. Because when you refuse to numb yourself to the cruelty, when you insist on seeing clearly, you don't just see pain, you feel it all. And that awareness, without protection, becomes a kind of slow-motion breakdown. This is the hidden tax of honesty. The deeper your integrity, the more it costs you, not just socially, psychologically. Because honesty, real honesty, forces you to go against your own survival instincts, to speak truth where silence is safe, to act with principle when self-interest would be easier. And that means living in a constant state of tension, between what you feel and what the world demands. Who is the honest man, really? He's the one swimming upstream against the current of primal instincts, greed, fear, competition. He's awake in a world that prefers sleep. But here's the danger. To be awake without a plan is self-destruction. To be sensitive without strategy is spiritual suicide. Because the world Schopenhauer describes doesn't care how noble you are. It doesn't care how loyal, how hardworking, how fair. It cares whether you serve the will, whether you help the system survive, expand, and dominate. If not, you're expendable. If you resist, you become a target. So what happens when your conscience tells you to do right, but the system punishes you for it? You hesitate, you suffer, and you lose. Not because you were wrong, but because you were unprotected. That's the uncomfortable truth Schopenhauer forces us to face. Being good isn't enough. You need to be strong. You need to be prepared. You need to be armed. Not with violence, but with clarity, with discipline, and with strategy. Otherwise, your goodness becomes a weakness others will exploit. Or as one modern thinker put it, your conscience without strategy becomes someone else's opportunity. Coming up, we'll break down exactly how the most honest people unknowingly sabotage themselves, and what they must stop believing if they want to survive with both their values and their sanity intact. So what does this mean in real life? What happens to the honest person who walks through a world built on strategy, power, and perception with nothing but sincerity in their hands? They lose, but not because they were honest. They lose because they were unarmed. It is a cruel paradox. The very thing that makes honest people valuable, their integrity, is also what makes them vulnerable, simply because they were never taught how to defend it. Not through violence, but through awareness, strategy, and boundaries. The truth is, most honest people are not defeated by bad luck. They are defeated by bad assumptions. They walk into a rigged game and think playing fair will somehow change the rules. There are three core beliefs, quiet, persistent, and deeply ingrained, that keep good people small, broke, and replaceable. The first belief is this: justice is automatic. Many believe that the world naturally rewards good behavior, that if you just work hard, stay kind, and do the right thing, eventually you will be recognized. But that belief is not truth. It is programming. Justice in the real world is not automatic. It is constructed. It is enforced. It is the result of principle plus power. Without power, morality is not justice. It is just hope with no leverage. The second belief, fighting is wrong. Honest people often avoid conflict because they confuse assertiveness with aggression. They stay silent even when something feels off. They let others cross the line because they fear being labeled difficult. But avoidance is not virtue. It is fear hiding behind good manners. In a world that rewards dominance, silence is not grace, it is surrender. And the third belief, saying no, is selfish. So many kind people are trapped in the idea that good character means endless availability. They say yes to everything, yes to more work, yes to emotional labor, yes to carrying other people's responsibilities. But when you say yes to everyone, you quietly say no to yourself. Without boundaries, your kindness becomes exploitation. You give until there is nothing left. These three beliefs form an invisible prison, one that looks noble on the outside but quietly destroys you from within. Because when your goodness has no armor, it attracts those who know exactly how to use it against you. At some point, the honest person has to wake up and realize the truth. You are not losing because you are kind. You are losing because you were taught that kindness alone was enough. It is not. In this world, kindness without strength becomes servitude. Conscience without strategy becomes someone else's opportunity. So the question is no longer, can you be good? That is easy. The real question is, can you be good and not be broken? Coming up, we will explore how the most principled people can protect their values without losing their power, and how honesty, when paired with strength, can become the sharpest weapon in the room. So how do honest people survive in a world like this? How do you protect your values without being devoured by systems that reward manipulation and punish transparency? You do not need to lie, but you must learn to lead. Because the world will not hand you power just because you mean well. It will hand it to those who demand it, or take it. And if you want to protect what matters most, you need to stop hoping for fairness and start designing strategy. First, turn your integrity into leverage. Too many honest people treat their values like a private burden, something they must quietly carry while others climb. But honesty, when combined with clarity, can become your strongest advantage. Build a reputation so consistent, so principled that people can trust you in a room full of liars. Make your truth a brand, not a plea. Second, build value that cannot be replaced. When others play for attention, play for substance. When they fake strength, build it for real. Because when you become necessary to your team, to your craft, to the people around you, then your ethics are no longer seen as softness. They are seen as foundation. Think of Viktor Frankl. He survived the Holocaust, not by fighting fire with fire, but by anchoring himself in meaning. Even as the world around him collapsed, he refused to betray his values. But here's the key: he did not just endure. He taught. He wrote. He built a legacy so powerful that generations later, his words still move people to stand tall in their darkest hour. His honesty did not make him weak. It made him unforgettable. Or take Theodore Roosevelt. He did not apologize for his strength. He did not hide his ambition. But neither did he abandon his moral compass. He was tough, decisive, relentless, but he led with principle. He once said, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." That was not about violence. It was about presence. He knew that quiet confidence backed by real force is more powerful than shouting with nothing to back it up. Which brings us to the third truth. You must become dangerous in your clarity. Not cruel, not manipulative, but absolutely unshakable. Let your honesty be sharp. Let your values be disciplined. Do not perform morality, embody it. Not because it looks good, but because it works. Because when your character becomes your strength, when your silence has weight and your word has impact, you do not have to fight for your place. You become the place. Coming up, we close with the final truth. You do not have to play the ruthless game to win, but you do have to understand it. And when you do, when you walk with both awareness and integrity, you become the kind of person no one can quietly replace. Schopenhauer never promised that you would be rich. He never sold hope wrapped in comfort. He wasn't interested in feel-good fantasies. What he offered was something far more valuable: clarity. He showed us why we suffer, why good people get crushed, why those who live with integrity are often the ones carrying the heaviest burdens. But here's the twist. Once you see it clearly, once you understand how the game works, you stop being a victim. You stop expecting the world to reward you for your goodness. And you start choosing how to move through it, awake, aware, and unshakable. You are not poor because you're honest. You're poor because you were taught that honesty means silence, that being good means being passive, that being ethical means always stepping aside. But that is not virtue, that is conditioning. That is what weak systems teach strong people to keep them from realizing their own power. The world does not need more broken good men. It does not need more silent, compliant souls trying to fix things from the bottom while others rig the top. What the world needs, desperately, is a new kind of person. Someone who is kind, but not naive, honest, but not predictable, principled, but not afraid to draw lines. Someone who knows how to move through chaos without becoming it. someone who knows how to build without being used, someone who can speak truth and still hold the room. The people who change the world are not the loudest. They are not the most ruthless. They are the ones who combine conscience with clarity, depth with discipline, the ones who are not ashamed of their values, but also not enslaved by them. They don't wait for permission to be whole. They don't shrink themselves to fit a broken system, and when that system tries to break them, they don't bend. Because they have something more powerful than rage or fear. They have presence, they have self-possession. They have the kind of quiet force that cannot be manipulated because it does not need validation. So if you feel tired from doing the right thing, if you feel invisible because you refuse to play dirty, if you have wondered why truth feels so heavy in a world built on performance, know this: your struggle is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you are carrying something real in a world obsessed with image. But you do not have to keep carrying it alone. You can be strong, you can be strategic, you can protect what is sacred without handing it away to those who mistake kindness for permission. Let your integrity speak softly, but carry the sharpest mind in the room, because the world will always try to shape you. But when you know who you are and you know how to move, you shape the world instead.